You've never been afraid of failing. You've been afraid of the man that you're going to have to become. You're afraid of the man that you're going to have to accept. A lot of ambitious, competent men already know they're ambitious. They already know they're competent. They already know they can be disciplined. They already know they're fucking dogs. But that's never been the issue. The issue is when you see yourself perform in such a way that you've never performed before. And when you're in that performance, when you're executing the way you want, when you're finally when you're finally hitting the standard that you want to hit, you feel like it's only a matter of time before you fall off from that. It's only a matter of time before you fall from that grace. And then when you eventually do fall, it's always the same cycle of how do I get back to that? How do I get back to being that man? And during those moments, you feel the most unstoppable that you've ever felt. You feel the most, the least hesitant, the most decisive. You're walking in your full masculine authority. And see, what they don't tell you is that that version of yourself that you're chasing is you. But you never asked for permission during that time that you were that version of yourself. You subconsciously, unconsciously allowed yourself to just be. Wow, now that you've fallen from grace, you're looking for permission to go back to who you used to be or who you think you used to be because you're still the same man. But every man knows what this feels like. Every man knows what this feels like. But the men that actually win in this life are the ones who are able to sustain being themselves. Being themselves. I'm not talking about the guys that are successful, they have a lot of money and but they're still frauds. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about the men who still live a life where they're aligned, where they're at peace, where they found truth in their life. That is actual win. That is actual contentment. When they're able to live a life like that, which is really what we all want: abundance, peace, and truth. People to share life with, women to share life with, men to be loyal to us. But see, the problem is that we get stuck in the art of becoming, get stuck in the, I need to be more, I need to become more. And what you'll realize, whatever it is that you're building in this life, you begin to realize that all the things that you're building is just a manifestation of your spirit. And what you begin to realize is this whole journey called life is just a self discovery of who you are. And then once you discover who you are, really learning how to accept who you are. And it's such a shock when you finally see your life aligning the way you've been building towards, and you realize, fuck, before I didn't know shit and I thought I was the shit. But now I know shit and I still ain't shit. And what you begin to realize is those states of where you felt unstoppable, where you were, the most decisive you've ever been, where hesitation didn't even exist in your body. You're gonna have to move closer and closer and closer to that version of that man. And that scares you because you've been looking back in the past, thinking about that guy, the guy that you used to be, not realizing that you're already him. And you've never been afraid of failing. You've been afraid of who you had to become to hold everything that you want in your life. Because once you're in the spotlight, there is no going back. Once you're seen, there is no being unseen. Once your name is echoed through eternity, that could either be for greatness or for great shame. And many of you ambitious, competent men understand that. You understand that. And it's something that we don't talk about amongst men, but it's the truth, the pressure of responsibility, the weight of responsibility. You know, it is like Uncle Ben says, with great power comes great responsibility. Power is freeing, but power is also heavy. Responsibility is heavy, it's weighty. You see, fear of failing, it doesn't exist. But fear of becoming the man that you always known yourself to be, That is a real fear. Being in front of all the people that you've been, you know, secretly battling in your mind. I know you, motherfucker. I know you. You create all these fucking enemies so you could keep yourself going, so you could say to your doubters, I proved you wrong. And then the obstacle moves, the finish line moves. Okay, but can you actually stay being that guy? Can you actually c- maintain everything you have now? Constant pressure that you live under. Whew. Yeah. But I say, you know, as I see my own life aligning to exactly where I've been building towards, like I mentioned before, it's been a rediscovering process for me, because you can lose your identity, which is the worst thing that you could go through, is losing who you are, losing your sense of self. And I realized that with the power that I've accumulated, with the wisdom I've accumulated, that I'm now freer than I've ever been. But I also understand that too much is given, much is required. So with great power does come great responsibility. And I wanted to touch on this topic today because a lot of you will die watching other men live the life that you were supposed to live. And you look towards this man, out of envy. You may look at him and say, I could do what he's doing and probably do it better, but you never actually act on it. And the reason for that is because you watch videos like mine, you watch other self improvement guys, and you say to yourself, shit, I need another system, I need another routine. But you're really watching those videos for permission to be who you are, for permission to accept yourself, right? And the finish line, it never stops moving. You're almost always there, but you never actually get there. You almost always make it, but you're never actually at the finish line because the finish line always moves. And that always tells me when a man feels like that, it's a lack of, you know, self permission. It's a lack of power. You could have all the money in the world, all the status in the world, but you could still lack power. Because really, true power comes when you're able to control who you are, when you're able to master yourself, when you're able to put aside your lust and rule over your desires, which is what lust is. Lust is just desires uncontrolled, desires unchecked. Many men will never reach this point. Many men will watch other men less qualified than them live the life that they want to. Many competent, ambitious men will watch less incompetent men build the lifestyle that they wanted. And they'll hate them for that. But it's really a projection of their own self hatred, of saying to themselves, why the fuck is this so hard for me? Why is it so hard for me to be myself? Why is it so hard for me to take life by the horns and ride it like the way I know I should be? Why is it so hard for me to actually give myself permission? Why do I feel that tightening in my chest that's holding me back? Why do I feel when I know I'm gonna slip? When I know that this unstoppable run that I've been on, that tug behind my head that's manipulating me? Why do I feel that? And the root of all that, the fear of becoming who you're meant to be, is because you're double minded. And a double minded man is unstable in all his ways. You're double minded. You have limiting beliefs running in you, and then you have your uncanny self belief running in you. And that creates more instability than ever, because you know you could do it. You have the courage to do it, but you can't seem to do it. And then you look online for carnal solutions to a spiritual issue. You don't look deep enough within yourself to actually figure out what's actually holding you back. You may even lie to yourself. You may even say you're not afraid of being who you are, but then you shrink up in certain rooms. You shrink up around authorities. You shrink up when you don't want to. Why is that? People only shrink when they feel pressure. And pressure is something that we give meaning to. Pressure to what? Pressure to perform. Pressure to not look bad. Pressure to look as great as we could be. pressure to not seem as a fraud, the fear of becoming the man that you know yourself to be is a fear that is widely untalked about. But it's a fear that every man, every ambitious and competent man will go through. It's really the fear of becoming yourself and seeing, do I really love myself the way I do? Or this whole time, have I really hated myself and I've been trying to run away from who I actually am?